What up, Muggles? This is Firebyrd, and I'm here with Ridgeback.
Hello.
And you're listening to the Dusty Cauldron, where we talk about all things Harry Potter and the witchy world at large. We're back for another Ickle Firsties episode, and this week, month, whatever time you're listening this to, this is book 4, The Goblet of Fire, and we'll have some predictions from Ridgeback on what he thinks he's going to see in the book versus what he has previously seen in the movies, and then we'll come back after he's read the books, and we will discuss whether or not the things he thought he would see in the books took place in the books or not. We do not have Marina in this episode, and we probably won't for future Ickle Firstie episodes, just because she has started some new exciting adventures and won't have time to come record with us. But we've really enjoyed her predictions and thoughts on the first 3 books, and we're going to move forward with just Ridgeback for the rest of this series.
Thanks, Marina.
All right. I'm here with Ridgeback. We're getting you all prepped and ready to read book number 4. So hit me. What are your predictions?
Well, I'm going to focus on someone that I don't think I've really talked about that much. And that's actually going to be Voldemort, he who will not be named. And I'm thinking that, 4 is where he kind of comes out to play finally. The teeth come out, and that's where he gets reassembled, if am I getting that right? So I think in the build up to that, I think we're really going to see the level of his intelligence and his scheming kind of really come into play as he puts this plan in motion. Because, we haven't seen it, we've seen pieces, but it hasn't felt like we've really seen how smart and crafty the guy is. And I feel like this one is okay, now we're going to show you why he's such a major threat and how he plays the game to his advantage. So yeah, I think we're going to see it more so than we saw it in the film.
I like that. And I am interested to kind of dig into the meat of that after you read the book, because I think you're going to have a lot of thoughts.
Okay, good deal.
Maybe with number 2?
You bet. I think the contest with the dragon, Harry's first contest, first task?
Yes.
First task with the dragon, and it's a hornbill. No, horn.
Yeah, horntail.
Horntail.
Hungarian horntail.
Hungarian horntail. Thank you. I think I'm hoping, maybe it's more of a wish, but it seemed interesting in the movie. I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit scarier and a little bit more terrifying, because that thing looks like it's murder with teeth. And I'm kind of hoping it's going to be a little bit more intense, where it feels like if you're reading this for the first time, you're like, crap, are they going to kill Harry right here? Because this thing's insane.
Does he make it out alive?
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping for that.
Nobody makes it.
But I feel like it's going to be more of a wish.
So. Okay. Interesting. I'm interested to hear your thoughts after you read on all of the different dragon interactions, because I feel like there's a lot that happened in that challenge, with the other champions and stuff, that just really doesn't make it into the movie.
You don't even really see their interactions.
So I think that's going to be a fun conversation for us after you finish the book. How about number 3?
Well, I think Ron, having seen the film, I know Ron's jock side, I think, comes out a little bit, because does he become the keeper?
Not in this one.
Not in this one.
Yeah,
it's
you're
in
thinking
5.
Of 5.
I still think that he's going to start to shake off that. He's kind of like the low Weasley. He's just kind of oh, it's Ron Weasley. And he's like, oh, everybody hates me. I'm so dumb. And I feel like he's going to start to shake this off in this book. He's going to find that confidence that he's been lacking for 3 books. And you have a look on your face that is priceless.
My look is that I just want to pay you to do that impression of Ron for the rest of my life. That was so funny. I'm here for it.
I'm Ron Weasley.
Nobody likes me.
Nobody likes me. I'm so dumb.
I'm not special enough.
Somewhere Rupert Grint's going hey.
That's rude.
That's rude, that is. So, but yeah, I think he's going to start to shake it. Okay. He's hitting 13, he's hitting puberty, so I think it's going to, with Ron, he could be just completely awkward at this point, or he could start to shake it off. I'm hoping and I'm thinking that he's going to start finding his wings a little bit. So,
do you think that he will have any extraordinarily embarrassing moments because he is 13 going on 14?
I think you have to. I mean, when you're a 13-year-old boy, the embarrassing moments fall off the tree like apples. They're everywhere. So, and it's Ron Weasley. So he really should have some, but I think he's going to start to recover from those and start to build the mythos of the average Weasley person that he will become.
Yeah. I'm also realizing I said 13 going on 14. He's 14 going on 15. He turns 15 in the latter half of the book.
Okay, well that makes more sense for me then.
But it's still, I mean...
I feel like he's going to shake it off.
You maybe have one more brain cell between 13 and 14, but as a 14-year-old boy, you're still... It's pretty low.
As a former 14-year-old boy, I think we share a brain cell between 14 and 15. So...
Okay, well, I am excited to hear what you think after you read, so I'm going to send you on your way.
Okay.
And we will come back when you're all done with the book.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, and we're back. You've just finished reading book 4. You had 3 predictions, so let's dig into what you thought was going to happen and if you think that it really did happen. So if you remember, the first prediction that you made was that in this book we were going to see Voldemort's true intelligence and scheming be front and center, and that would be portrayed in the movie. How do you feel about that prediction?
It wasn't. I mean, I didn't feel like this. I thought the scheming would be more apparent. Not like written badly or anything, just like you would see more pieces coming together. It felt very similar to what I saw in the movie. I didn't really feel like there was really too much change. I actually reading the book and thinking of the movie while I was reading the book. I felt like it was actually pretty close in a lot of instances. I would have to think about any one particular one that was different, but I mean, a lot of things seemed to play out the same, and except no, I think a lot of it all played out the same. So I didn't really feel like I saw anything different. And actually, looking back on it, I really kind of don't like my prediction. I feel like it wasn't a very good prediction.
So I don't know if I agree with you, because I do feel like we get a certain level of, here's all these things that Voldemort orchestrated in order to ensure that Harry would be in the Triwizard Tournament, in order to ensure that Harry would be in the graveyard when it was time for the resurrection spell. / potion ritual, I guess. So I don't know. I felt like we do see a certain level of scheming there, and we get to hear conversations of him doing scheming in that first, like the opening scene where Harry is sort of having the dream, and like we're weirdly from Frank Bryce's perspective, which is interesting because for every future thing where he's like eavesdropping via the mind connection, spoiler alert, to Voldemort, it's very clearly from Voldemort's perspective, but the opening scene actually is kind of from Frank's perspective, and I think that's done so that we can give some insight into like backstory on Frank, but ultimately it's kind of weird because Harry doesn't have a mental connection with Frank Bryce, but Frank Bryce is observing a scheming conversation happening between Voldemort and Wormtail. And then when Harry has like the series of visions throughout the year, we're seeing a little bit more of like what's going on with the inner workings with Voldemort in the background while the rest of the story is playing out.
But don't we see some of that in the film, though? I thought like there was stuff where we saw Wormtail talking to him, and there was like I thought it was like the same thing. Like somebody was brought upstairs and they were talking to each other, and then. So
you thought it would be more than the movie? You would see more than what you saw in the movie?
Yeah,
okay.
And that's what I was saying. Is I felt like the reason why I felt like it was a bad prediction was I felt like the movie did a really good job of illustrating what had happened in the book. So I didn't feel like things that were put in place didn't surprise me. I didn't feel like there was something they left out that went, oh, they didn't have that in the movie. I didn't really feel like with this one, I got that. I felt like they actually got a lot of it over. So that's why I felt like the prediction overall may have just been a bad prediction, because I felt like both the book and the movie didn't really reveal anything more about Voldemort and his plan. It felt like they both articulated it pretty well. So I feel like that prediction didn't come true for me.
Okay. With how you have it framed, I agree with you.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay. And then your second prediction was that Harry's first contest with the dragons will be scary and deadly. How did you feel about that?
I remember I was listening to the audiobook, And I felt like that was one instance that I felt like it really wasn't, like, it was really quick. Like, it felt like it happened, like, really fast and was gone. Like, in the book, they painted, in the movie, they painted up way differently. Like, I think if I remember right, the dragon chases him all over the place on his broom.
Yeah, they, like, leave the enclosure.
They leave the enclosure. Never happened. And with his broom in this one, it happens like, it's like boom, boom, and it's like over. And I was just like, oh. Because I felt like, oh, you guys really painted a broader picture of what this scene was in the movie than what it was in the book. I thought it was a little scary. I mean, it's just from my years of conditioning from guys like Wes Craven and Stephen King, that I didn't find it as scary or as intense as I did in the movie. Because in the movie, they want the people on the edge of the seat, so like constantly, the thing's constantly chasing him, constantly on him. And in that one, it was a smart plan, and it happened very quick and efficiently. But yeah, it wasn't as scary.
I think that's fair. I feel like prior to mounting the broom in the book, his fear is very palpable, and there's sort of a lead up of fear ahead of the challenge. And then when he gets on the broom, there's a certain level of confidence that he gains because he is a competent flyer, that some of that fear falls away. And then, yeah, it's kind of like a wham bam, thank you ma'am, challenge is over.
Yeah, I mean, and how that, and like you saying that, it's like, I agree. It just didn't translate to being scary for me at all. Like, it was a little bit, but the movie at least was more intense, and now I see why. I think they wanted to dress the dragon thing up to be way more intense than it really was. But you didn't need it. I mean, they're going by beats and like, oh, at this point something exciting has to happen, so we gotta take this dragon scene and we gotta bump it up. We gotta save the cat in this one, you know. But it's like, really, it was actually clever, and I think the plan was clever, and I felt like you show a different side to Harry by showing that scene than showing the scene in the movie where it's him running away and running for his life, because we see that in the first 3 movies all the time. This one, actually, we see him execute a plan really well. Mm-hmm. And it says something about his strategy, his ability to maybe more like follow directions.
Yeah, because I'm like, was it really his plan?
It wasn't really his plan. Like, Ron's more, if I remember it, Ron's more the strategist. But,
yeah, definitely.
At least he can follow directions. We know that, because for the first 3 books, we don't think he can follow directions either. You know, just falling into everything, hitting everything.
Yeah, it's fair. It's really interesting because, like, Beat Sheet and Save the Cat is only going to hit with, like, maybe half of the people that listen, and for them it's going to be really funny, and for everyone else it's going to be like, I don't remember a cat being in that scene. And I love it. I don't want to explain it. I want that to be a funny moment when people listen.
Some people are going to get it, and some people are going to be really confused.
Yeah. Okay, so far we're 0 for 2?
I think we're 0 for 2.
Okay. And then the third prediction was that Ron will shake off the nerdy Weasley role. How do you feel about that?
I really got to think about that one for a second. Because, you know, he wasn't the nerdy Weasley. He was more like the Weasley. Like, he was like the bottom Weasley, like the bottom of the barrel. I feel like people viewed him as the bottom of the barrel Weasley, you know, like.
Oh, okay. I thought you were meaning like a sub. Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah. I don't know that I would have thought you could have success with that prediction, because I don't think he's ever been the nerdy Weasley. I think the nerdy Weasley is Percy. Percy is
definitely more, and I don't want to insult nerds, because I feel like he's just Percy to me is more of the micromanager Percy. You know, like, he really is like about like in the paper that he's so concerned about witches and like the state of their cauldrons or something like that.
The
like,
thickness of the bottom.
That is so important to him. Like, I could see him out there with a little ruler, like just checking everybody and like this. And to him, that is the most important thing in the world. The world is like on the brink of melting around him. He's concerned about cauldron thickness.
Well, because that might melt too.
And by God, we can't have a lawsuit at Hogwarts.
Oh my gosh. You know, I think a case could be made that Fred and George have a certain level of nerdiness because it takes that sort of academic inclination and innovative spirit that I think nerds have to come up with everything they came up with for the Wheezing Wizard Wheezes. Well, Weasley Wizard Wheezes.
Well, it's like, to speak as Cooey for a minute, it's like, it's about defining what nerd is to them, nerd to us can be anybody from someone who really likes playing video games to really likes hobbies, like tabletop gaming. So, I mean, nerd has varying degrees of definition.
So it's a spectrum.
That would be actually fun to do at some point. What is a nerd in the wizarding world? What is considered a nerd? Is Hermione a nerd?
Oh, most definitely.
Or is Percy a nerd?
Also, most definitely.
And then you start to have that broad definition again.
You can build out your categories. Maybe we should make archetypes of nerds from different characters. That could be a fun episode.
That could be a fun episode, actually, yeah. So, I think like this prediction didn't come through because I feel like he was never really a nerd to begin with. However, he does seem to make a jump. Not a huge jump. His character starts to go in its arc of what it is to kind of be a Gryffindor, because he starts to kind of assert himself more, put himself out there. Even though I think he goes to the ball with
someone that Harry asked.
It's not Pavardi.
I always mix up which one took Pavardi and which one.
I thought Harry took Pavardi.
Padma. Yeah.
Oh wait, did Harry take Padma?
I am not totally sure.
Because I remember whoever it was not impressed with Harry.
Yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't have been either.
Yeah, I mean, his mind wasn't even in the ball. He was thinking of everything else, and his date was like, "We're at the ball. Let's have fun." And he's like, "Oh, problems, theories, thinking." But yeah, I think he starts to make a growth, which is nice. And I thought Ron was interesting, and I just think I think the prediction falls flat.
I think that Harry took Pavardi and Ron took Padma.
Okay.
Because I think that Harry asked Pavardi in Gryffindor House and then was like, "Hey, can you find someone for Ron to take?" And so she was like, "I'll ask my sister."
And did Ron and Padma, I don't think, had a very good time either, did they?
No, because Ron was also a worthless date.
Because they're teenage boys.
Yeah, and you can't be like, "Let's go to a dance," but I'm definitely not going to dance with you at all, ever. I'm going to ignore you for several hours.
Yeah.
That's teen boys. They're all stupid.
Can't argue with that. Really can't. I've met and been a lot of teenage. Wait a minute.
You've met a lot and you've been one.
A lot of teenage boys.
Do you have DID? And I'm just now finding out.
Apparently, I do. And they're all been teenage, and they're all still teenage boys. Actually, if you look at my game room, so
that's fair. So it's interesting because I feel like just like book 3. You are like, all of these predictions were wrong. But I feel like the vibe on that is very different. Like on book 3, you were disappointed and you really didn't like the book. And on this one, it's like, the predictions were wrong, but you seem kind of jovial about it. And you seem to have actually really enjoyed the book.
The book I really did like the book. It's funny because, like, I think we talked about before that, like, I really loved the movie of book 3. It's like one of my favorites. But I didn't like book 3. And I can't remember if it's book 2. I didn't like the movie, but liked the book. Book 4 was good. I thought book 4 was a nice change of pace, and we really the whole plan does start to unfurl with at the big championship, and people are just getting struck down, and it's just such a great way to open it. And like, boom, it's just chaos. It's like get a few pages of like what you expect from what you've read from the first few books, and all of a sudden just chaos, and Harry's like right in the middle of it, and that's the closest. I don't think he thinks about it, but that's actually kind of the closest he's ever been to what his parents experienced.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like he really was kind of back in their shoes and what was going on before he was born. You know, so
and then he sort of gets to experience that more and more as the rest of the series develops.
Yeah.
I thought that this book was one of the better ones for like really interesting magic being seen, sort of unexpected darkness creeping in.
Yeah.
It's the first more like YA book rather than a children's book, which is like a big transition, and it's part of how like we talk about those of us that grew up with the series, that we were growing up with the series, like it was aging at the pace that we were aging. So book 1 is very juvenile. Book 2 is like, you know, a little bit, but you're still definitely a child. Book 3 is this weird, awkward early preteen phase. And then book 4 is like, yeah, this is what it felt like to be a high schooler. But then adding in the spice of like, there's a war brewing, which obviously we had not really experienced that like in the way that they're experiencing it, because like, to be fair, those of us that grew up with Harry Potter, there was a war brewing when we were at that age. That's when we went to war with Iraq, but it wasn't like right in our face. It was a little different.
I feel like some of it might have to do with we finally get to really see more of the world. Like for the first 3 books, we're kind of locked in the castle. And I think maybe that was where I started having problems. It's like we're always locked in the castle. We're always stuck in the castle. Yeah, we get to go to like Hogsmeade for like a couple seconds, or we go back down to Diagon Alley. Or what is it? Diagon Alley. But this one opened the world up a little bit. Like, we got to see other wizards. We got to be in other places. We got to be part of the tournament. And even though the tournament was held on Hogwarts grounds, I feel like the universe does a nice job of creating these other schools and these other personalities that are far different than what they've been dealing with in the school. So it really creates a sense of brain food. Like, you start nibbling on it more because this is stuff you haven't had yet. So you're like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to eat this. This is so cool. And like, Fleur is really interesting. Crumb is way different in the book than he's portrayed in the movie. Like, he's kind of like, he looks very muscular, but in the book, he's not really muscular. He's kind of reminds me a little bit of how they of Snape, of how they describe Snape a little bit.
I disagree with the muscular piece. I feel like he's definitely still described as like large.
Yeah.
But he does have a more brooding, sallow appearance, and then he has a more endearing appearance in the books, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like he has this sort of like vulnerability and seems like somewhat approachable, and I don't feel like that reads in the movie at all. He's just there.
No, and like his approaching of Hermione was very sweet. Like, I was like, wow, he's because didn't feel like I got that from the movie either.
Yeah.
I love the way he interacts with her to kind of get her to, because isn't he like kind of like very shyly
and like just studying with her?
Do you want to go to the dance with me? Yeah. I can see a boy doing that. I can see a boy who was scared and nervous because it was something he'd never done before, and like people are fawning over him, but obviously he's still humble. It makes him very uncomfortable probably. So like actually asking somebody out who he's intimidated by because of her, he's probably gotten a sample of knows about how smart she is, and she's pretty to him, and it's I really like the way Crumb is.
Yeah, I like when reading the series and seeing the movies, I really liked it. I actually struggle with their interactions now that I'm an adult. And it's because she was 14 and he was an adult. And so it's weird to me that he was...
I didn't think about that.
Like, in order to enter the tournament, you had to legally be an adult. So he's at least 17. And 17 and 14 I still think is gross. But 18 would have made it worse. But he's like... He has a professional career. It's weird that he's even still in school, honestly. And then he was attracted to her. And so now that I'm an adult, looking back at the series, I'm very uncomfortable with how that played out. Particularly because we go from, like, I don't know you at all to you are my most important thing that gets put in the lake. Like, that's kind of, like, what's going on there? It takes a darker turn for me. Well,
it could have been just maturity and development. He was still kind of behind on those as a mature.
Maybe.
Like, and so, like, I know, like, when I was in high school, if I liked every other girl. None of them went out with me, but I liked every other girl, and I was like, I don't feel like I was obsessive about it, but I felt like, that I was like, if a girl liked me, she was like, boom, oh my god, a girl likes me. She's the most important thing in my life. My first girlfriend, it was like that.
Yeah.
So.
I get that. That makes sense. And maybe it is his first relationship, because he would be in, like, a really weird position for trying to get a relationship, because he's already got, like, a professional Quidditch career when he's still a student. Like,
that is interesting. I guess he could. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work in their world to have a. It's like taking a football player from college, hiring him to have a job, but he could actually. I mean,
high school, really.
Yeah, high school.
It'd be like putting a high schooler in the NFL, but then he still also has to go to high school.
Technically, I think they could. You'd have to do like this in football, though, he'd have to be far away. So he'd have to do, like, distance learning.
Yeah.
But in this world, like, with how quickly they can travel, it allows him to be still in college, still in high school, and be able to go to work. And he just go, like, he can...
Yeah.
He's not going to use flu powder, but
apparate.
Apparate. That's the word I was thinking of. He could apparate. If they taught him or someone, or like... who's the headmaster of... Karkaroff. Maybe he apparates him there so he can get to practice, because he might do that because it's such a glowing recommendation for their school, you know.
Yeah. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also, I never thought about it, but he must have taken the year off to do the tournament. Because unless it's that Harry's so oblivious. Because here's the nice thing, and that fan fiction writers love, is anything is possible because Harry is so oblivious. He could have been leaving constantly throughout book 4 to go play Quidditch games, and Harry would have had no idea.
Yeah, and don't they get, like, excused from their tests in that year?
Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because, like, the whole goal was to have, like, 7th years do it. Like, Harry's an anomaly, right? So your 7th year is when you take, like, the most important exams of your life, and they determine what career you can have, and we're just not going to take them. So I hope you win the tournament because you're going to live off that 1,000 galleons for the rest of your life.
Because you can't take the test now. You've been excused from the
I guess
test.
probably they can schedule something to go take it later.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably thinking of it like, cool, I don't have to take that test. It's like, no, you don't have to take it now.
And, like, for Crumb, it probably honestly doesn't matter because he already has a career. But, like, if Cedric had lived,
yeah,
what were you going to do if you didn't win? Like, you didn't take your newts.
It must be something to take the newts later.
I guess.
There's got to be some off out of book experience where he's like, oh, this one is the pamphlet where Harry had to go take his newts.
Right.
And he hated it.
He hated it.
Hated every minute.
The only one it made sense for of, like, you don't have to take your exams is Harry, because it was just like an end of year exam. It's not something that's like a federal standardized test.
But the only person it actually affects is Harry, isn't it?
No, it affects all of them. They all don't have to take the test.
But it's only at the end of your 4th year you would take those tests, right?
No, you take your owls at 5th year and your newts at 7th year. So Harry's the only one not affected because 4th year is just like, you have to take Professor Snape's test.
Yeah, yeah. So he didn't. I remember how much he enjoyed that.
Yeah.
He was like,
I don't have to do it.
But coming in really. I mean, on his report card, it doesn't say A or B. It says pass. And nobody likes pass on a report card. It has 0 value. At least it used to. I don't know. I went to school back in the Dark Ages, so it could have changed.
Who knows what goes on with grading anymore? Though I did recently hear that they are taking Common Core math out of schools. And I'm like, you finally pulled your head out of your ass.
I heard
That's good.
that. I mean, I understood the logic behind it, but I remember being taught math and understanding how we got there.
Yeah.
You know, they just taught math. And so I never understood how... So something must have changed after we got out, that the reason why they thought they had introduced Common Core, and somehow it was they were just skipping steps and getting them to results. Which was probably screwing up slightly. We can't do this. We need something to bring it back. It's like, well, just teach math.
Right. Let's not make math complicated and turn it into an art project.
It is like math is actually a universal language. It's like everybody understands math.
And it doesn't. Well,
it doesn't necessarily mean you're good at it.
Yeah.
It could be like, por favor, mi tengo el baño. You know, doesn't mean I speak fluent Spanish. You know, so.
Fair. We are massively devolving, though, so I'm a real listen. Thanks for tuning in, Muggles. If you're jonesing for more witchy goodness between episodes, you can check us out on Instagram at Dusty Cauldron Podcast, on Facebook at the Dusty Cauldron Podcast group, or email us at dustycauldronpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can go check out our website, www.dustycauldronpodcast.com. You can subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening if you want to hear more. And remember, Book 4 is the turning point of the series. It sort of hinges from where we're going to bridge from childhood to adulthood. And it's probably one of the better ones for staying true to the movie conversion. And don't forget to stir what's ever brewing in your cauldron right now. Bye!
See you later.